Who's waiting for us? Nobody. Awesome.
I think we're live. No, I think we're gonna have a couple there tonight, but they might be late.
Hey, we're live.
Hey, Jeff McKinney.
Yep, I just got the notification. Okay, so we got a couple minutes. And then, so when we're if I'm going to make the ABC, do you have a recommendation on which absinthe I should mix with that?
Yeah, and this is actually something that I wanted to talk about with the two different absinthes. So the Vermut was just released a few months ago.
Okay.
I prefer that in cocktails, and I prefer the Blanche as just a louche with water and maybe some ice.
That makes sense. That makes
sense. I think the Vermut really, really does sparkly magic things to cocktails.
Sparkle, well then, that's an easy one. I'm going with sparkly magic things for sure. Let me get here.
And then, yeah, you guys have the sample bottles where I have full-size bottles here.
Oh, okay, I'm kind of jealous. But now, well, I feel like this is like an NFT. This is like Absinthia, I bet yours don't have QR codes on them.
They do indeed.
Darn it. Okay.
It's the same QR code. The QR code actually goes right to the recipe page.
Oh,
because I find that a lot of people, nobody has any idea what to do with absinthe. Right?
Yeah.
This is
so
true.
I figured I'd give them a hand. If they see it on the shelf in a store, they can just, zap that QR code. And Jim, who doesn't want sparkly magic?
That's right.
They could just grab that QR code and see the recipes and say, "Oh, I would like to make that cocktail," and then they might buy the bottle.
So I was so pleasantly surprised because I pulled into the parking lot at Sprouts today. It's like, am I gonna have to go inside to get stuff for a cocktail? And I'm like, and I really wanted the Death in the Afternoon, Hope and Dreams thing, right? And then I look and see, well, holy shit, it's absinthe and champagne. And it's my wife's birthday today, so we finished most of a bottle of champagne. So we're gonna polish it off on the show in a Hope and Dreams cocktail.
Well, happy birthday to your wife.
Oh, Ruyak.
What?
Okay, nothing. It's all good. All right. And then one last test. You guys will hear this? Yes?
Yes.
All right. Okay. I think I'm all set. Are you guys?
You got the Is It Hazy drop ready?
I don't. Do I need to get it ready?
I mean, after we drop the ice in the absinthe.
I'm not. I don't think I'm going to have
know.
it. I'm not going to be able to have it ready. Jim may have 2 bottles of absinthe in the bar already. So, the absinthe lovers are showing up.
Isn't that cute? Denurse Noid.
Okay. All right. Let's do this.
It is disoriented if you spell it backwards.
It is.
Oh wow, that's fucking that's pseudo profound, John.
At the sound of the tone, the official "We Like Drinking" time will be 5 o'clock. Commence consumption.
This week on episode 338 of the We Like Drinking podcast, we'll be discussing wormwood, louche, and maybe even some green fairies, because it's all about absinthe this week with Absinthia Vermut of Absinthia Absinthe. So crack open that beer, uncork that wine, and let's get drinking! Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, no. Ladies and gentlemen, put the boys and girls to bed because we're rolling with absinthe this week, and I am so excited about this episode. So let me start out by saying cheers, my podcast drinking friends, and welcome to Happy Hour 338 of your favorite award-winning topical beer and wine education podcast focusing on fun. We sure like to have it. So make sure you never miss another episode of our brand of drinking fun by visiting welikeDrinking.com/subscribe.
Subscribe.
I know it's rolling big tonight when we're already in double digits for comments in the chat section. So look
People
out,
are
folks.
Fired up.
What page
right
do I
now.
go to for psychedelic jellyfish?
Fired up for the absinthe. So let's get right to it. Let's find out who we're drinking with and what we're drinking. We're joined by our usual panel members. We have our California Sustainable Wine Growing Ambassador and recovering wine blogger, Jeff Solomon.
Hey, shalom, everybody.
Our commercial brewer and snake wrangler, John Riak.
Good evening.
And I am your host and certified specialist of wine, Jeff Eccles. Now, ladies and gentlemen, our guest this week is the founder and creator of Absinthia Absinthe, a labor of passion and persistence. She is here to share her wares with us and discuss the journey that has taken her from Burning Man to Washington, D.C., and everywhere in between. Please help us welcome Absinthia Vermut. Welcome to the show, Absinthia.
Thank you so much.
So excited to have you on the show. I got to say, we do these drinking episodes every now and then, and one of them we did absinthe. And it was such a train wreck because none of us, I think, really understood absinthe very well. And myself, I think I got possibly the worst absinthe that's ever been created. So I'm excited to learn and taste from a master of the drink. So welcome to the show.
Thank you.
So let's talk.
I swear to you, I'm sitting here. I'm like, I think I've been on every episode. I do not remember. That must have been a crazy show. I'm sorry, everybody, if you did listen to that one.
It was, do you remember it, John, or did I just make this all up?
I'm the oldest of the group, so what
This
are
is
you
true.
asking me for? You know, Cynthia, I mean, you got to be a master of time travel to be able to go from the black hole at the center of the universe known as Washington, D.C., all the way out to the outer arm of Burning Man in the galaxy in, just the span of years. That's like work 23.
I don't have any connection to Washington, D.C. I grew up outside of New York City.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
You've had some experience with the government, though, that we'll talk about.
Yes, I sure have.
And we'll talk about that a little later, which is where that came from. So Absinthia Vermut with Absinthia's Absinthe. We have a couple of them here tonight. Can you talk to us about what it is that we'll be drinking as we start to get into these? And is there one that we should pour first?
Start with the Blanche and just with a little cold water. I recommend between 2 and 3 parts cold water to 1 part of the Absinthe Blanche. Depending on if you're new to absinthe, you're probably going to want a little bit more water. It's just a flavor that most Americans, I say, are not really familiar with. I prefer mine with just a little, an ice cube and a splash of water. So the Absinthe Blanche I love the story of the Blanche because it was very popular when absinthe was banned. Because if you made it and you didn't turn it green, nobody knew what it was.
Right. Okay.
I like that.
Like that, right? So absinthe actually comes out of the still perfectly clear, just like that. So that is distilled biodynamic grapes with organic wormwood, anise, fennel, and coriander. It's based on vintage Swiss recipes. And so if you add the water, you'll see that it starts turning milky. That's the louche. And I recommend no sugar. I don't want to dump a bunch of sugar into my glass. I thought while I was making an organic absinthe that most of my customers wouldn't either. And I really do feel that if your absinthe is bitter enough that it needs a ton of sugar to be drinkable, it's probably not a well-crafted absinthe.
And there's quite a bit of that out there, yes?
There is quite a bit out there. Absinthe was, the ban was lifted. You can't even say that it was made legal again because technically it's been legal since the repeal of the prohibition. Modern science proved that once wormwood is distilled, absinthe is perfectly safe. And lost my thread. Lost
That's
my thread
okay.
there.
We'll come back to the legalities of it and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So we've added some water to this. We've put a little ice in it. It's getting that very milky kind of cloudy kind of color. And then on the nose, I mean, I'm getting so much of that licorice anise kind of aromas in there. How about you guys?
Yeah.
Yeah, same thing. And it's like, how fun was it just opening it up and just, I was pouring neat into both these glasses right here that I got Absinthia. You probably might recognize these. I got these in a gift pack from Bevmo about 15 years ago. But yeah, as I was pouring them out, like right away, just that fennel, that anise, like that, just that licoricey goodness that just comes out of the bottle. And I've even got like a nice little like cologne on my fingers from just like opening it up. But yeah, just and that's what I love about absinthe. It's weird, my one old 15-year bottle that I break out every once in a while, I know a lot of people that go, ooh, absinthe, and they start running around like acting all scared. It's like I just love like the botanicals and just like, if my feeling is if you say you like gin, you should be liking absinthe as well, just because of that nature of it,
They're very, very similar, different herbs, of course, but distilled alcohol with herbs, just different herbs. They're very similar. That's right.
And there's an aroma that's coming in behind the licorice that's trailing in after that. Do you guys get that? And I'm blanking on what that is.
It's kind of floral to me.
Yes.
So again, it's simply distilled grapes with wormwood, anise, fennel, and coriander. A lot of people say that it's licoricey. Licorice is a very similar flavor, but a very different plant. And so there's no licorice. You don't want licorice in your absinthe, but that's a word I hear a lot, and I'm always correcting people. It's actually anise and fennel that you're tasting.
Well, I think it's the fennel. I think it's the fennel and the coriander. It's kind of the coriander because
when most people think of licorice, they think of like Mike and Ike's candies or stuff like that. Whereas I tell people this is more like a fresh fennel salad.
Yes.
There you go.
I like
Thank you for correcting me.
we make some killer soup with fennel bulbs.
So now we're about to taste this. So what can we expect on this absinthe, the Blanc here?
It's got a natural sweetness, and I feel like you can really taste the various different herbs. It's got a little bit of bitter from the wormwood, but the wormwood that we use is mostly fresh, not dried. And so when you dry herbs, you take out all the moisture, you make them more bitter. So that contributes to the lack of need for sugar in the glass.
Wow.
This is, I know this is a dirty word. This is fire right here. like
it's fairy fire, if you will.
I love the sweet backbone that's there. And just this lasting mouthfeel, like it's a high proof alcohol, but it's not like this fire water thing. It doesn't need, I'm the same way. Like I don't like adding sugar to stuff. It doesn't need it because there's that wonderful sweetness there. Wow, this is just. I don't even know what to say. It's delicious.
I think the most surprising thing to me is how refreshing it is. Like I really wasn't expecting it to be a refreshing drink, but it really is refreshing and light, and there's so much flavor. And you're right, it's a roller coaster. It's like there's anise, there's fennel, there's all these flavors that just pour in waves over your palate. It's amazing.
It's very, very interesting. And I guess we'll talk about this during the interview. But the uses of absinthe or wormwood as a aperitif to get people who've lost their appetite to eat. That wormwood is used for that kind of thing. For me, in the tasting and the aroma, we just finished a a Belgian honey wit at work, and Belgian yeast, if you do it right, imparts a lot of coriander flavor into the beer without adding coriander if you do it properly. And I think we did. And so it to me, it has a lot of the same components as a fine Belgian beer, although like there's all kinds of malt and hops in that too, but the complexity of this is really, really quite pleasing.
Yes.
You know what I'm getting on the finish here?
What's that?
And it was like, as soon as Eccles talked about it being like refreshing, I got like this burst of lime, like this lasting like residual lime that's just there. And like I don't even know. I mean, do we get into like food pairings with this? Because I swear to you, I would love to have this with some tacos right now. Like, this is wonderful.
I think that's
so. One
your
of the
Tuesday
things that I
bias.
tell people about absinthe is that, John, you had mentioned that it's an aperitif to get people to. It's actually traditionally a digestif, and with the fennel, it actually, it can cure bad breath after a heavy dinner. So you have a little glass of it after dinner, and it's very refreshing.
I'm brushing my teeth with it tonight. Then
there you go.
Happy birthday, Sharon.
One of your commenters said pastis. Pastis is similar, but it's full of sugar. It's a liqueur, whereas this is a spirit.
There you go. See, all the and you even educated JVB on that one. So that's Absinthia. That's impressive. Like, very well done. Very well done. JVB did have a question. I know before the folks, you got to know before the show, I talked to our guests on our panel about how we need to stay focused and stay on time. And we're only going to do 5 minutes on this, that, or the other thing.
Yeah, blew that out of the water already.
It goes out of the water like 2 seconds into the show. But JVB, Jim Van Bergen asks, so I've only ever done very cold water, but I don't know why colder water is better. Can Absinthia explain?
Yeah, it has to do. So the louche actually comes from the anise, and it has to do with the temperature of the water and the release of the oils in the anise, and it just tends to work better with colder water, I find.
All right.
That's as sciencey as I'm going to get right now.
It is fun as as the ice melts and it starts warming up a little bit. Like the flavors really mature as you're tasting it. You get a little bit more of the woodsy or the herbal components coming through. Like it definitely does evolve as it warms up. So that's a lot of fun. All right, shall we get into the verte? Or vert?
Sure.
Do you want to do
Yes.
that? Right.
Sure.
I guess
I'm ahead of you guys. Come on.
I guess we're doing a vertical. There's some wine folks in there. I know Becca Gomez Farrell laughed at that one.
Ooh.
So
already.
The verts, like I said, I love it in cocktails. You'll notice that it's not, John, I saw you looking, it doesn't louche in the same way as the blanche. I'm sort of reformulating the vert right now and working on that issue. There's when you think about making an absinthe, there's the louche, there's the color, there's the mouthfeel, there's the appearance, there's the aroma, and of course the taste. And so I feel like this absinthe vert it makes the best Sazerac I think I've ever had. But I don't think it works as well as the blanche in a louche. And so I'm actually reformulating it. We're very close to what we want to do. What we have now is we literally just took the blanche straight out of the still, added coloring herbs, strained it, and bottled it. And what I believe happens is that the coloration overpowered the anise in the blanche. And so we're working on a new clear base that will then get colored with herbs to turn it green. But I may keep this one speaking of Washington, D.C., if the TTB allows me to label the verts as a cocktail vert, and then I have the other one that is great in cocktails and as a louche. We'll see.
Okay.
They tend to give absinthe makers a very, very hard time.
They give beer makers a hard time too, but I can imagine. For this on the nose, I get a little more sweetness.
Mm-hmm.
I just have to say, visually, I have so much fun, like watching everything like precipitate out, like from underneath the ice cube. It almost looks like a jellyfish, like as it's like, oh man,
The psychedelic
The
jellyfish.
psychedelic jellyfish, right? Who mentioned
Yeah.
that?
Oh, I didn't even know that was
Rhett.
This guy. Oh
I don't know
wow.
where they find psychedelic jellyfish in Canada, but
So the nose
yeah.
is quite different on this one.
Yeah, it's more floral
Mm-hmm.
because of the coloring herbs. Now, I will say, if you have an absinthe that is a bright green, chances are it has been artificially colored. Probably what you drank on this show the last time that none of you remember.
That's how you know it's a good show.
Right. If you remember it, you weren't really there.
That's right.
Yeah. So you don't want to drink an absinthe that's been artificially colored. That is not a true absinthe.
And I was going to wait till later, but we're just hanging out now. So there's several different ways that they make absinthe, right? You distill, which is the way to make absinthe, but there's other ways that some of the more mass produced, maybe less quality folks may make their absinthe. Is that a true statement?
it's like a cold soak or something like
Like
that.
a
Is that what I read?
Maceration,
And
right?
then I think just dumping booze and coloring
And
together.
that's actually how I started way back when.
Mhm.
But that is not a true absinthe.
Yep.
So there's no legal definition yet of what. Yeah, there's no legal definition of what absinthe is, but it's generally understood as a distilled spirit with a trinity of herbs: the wormwood, anise, and fennel. It can't have sweetener in the bottle, so it cannot be a liqueur. It cannot be artificially colored, and it can't have herbs and stuff floating in it like you might see in a market in the Czech Republic.
Jeff Solomon, there you go. You can go next to the garlic wine and open up your own fake absinthe.
Yeah,
stand.
so okay. This is what I do is I've got this still and I just pack the column full of raw garlic cloves, everybody. It's disgusting. This is wonderful.
Thank you.
And I do like there's this, just this subtle earthiness that's coming along with the vert. I love the color. I love that it's not like this, I mentioned lime as a tasting note before. I'm glad this is not like a lime shock green when I'm looking at it. And I'll tell you what's on my mind right now. So this starts from a distilled spirit from organic biodynamic grapes, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is there a particular variety of grapes that we're using here? Or?
There is, but I can't tell you.
Oh man. Yeah, I think JVB wants to take the challenge right now. He's gonna be like, oh, this is I know it's California.
It's definitely California. So all my ingredients are grown organically in California and Oregon.
That's so cool.
So
but where the grapes grow, you can't grow the herbs. The climates are actually very different.
Yeah, the grapes.
I'm calling it Viognier just because I know another distillery that makes a vodka with Viognier, and I'm just gonna say that, and I'm probably wrong, and that's okay.
So, folks, if you want to learn a little bit more beyond what you're hearing about on the show, you can visit the website at absinthia.com, ABSINTHIA, or you can check them out on Instagram at Absinthia_absinthe. So check both of those out. All right. Now, yes, John.
I'm raising my hand.
Yes.
Now, as Cynthia, you said you think that the Verte or the Vert works better for cocktails, but for my Hope and Dreams, which it says the Blanche on your website. What do you think? the
Oh, that's a great
champagne.
question.
If the champagne is a rosé champagne, extended tirage.
A rosé champagne. So typically I use a brut or a dry champagne.
Yeah, this is pretty dry.
Okay.
This is a dry champagne.
I think you should have two and tell us which one you like better.
I don't know that I have enough grape juice for that, but we'll try. We'll try. I'll start with the blanc.
Yeah, try it. Now the
Save
website
some-
says blanche simply because I haven't updated since I released the Verret. I have to go through all of those recipes and update my website.
But John, don't forget to save some for the birthday girl.
What? She helped drink most of what's gone in this air already.
Well, and the Absinthe fans that are following along will not recognize Hopes and Dreams. I made that up a few months ago. I got tired. One of the things about my brand is that I'm really trying to counter the anti-absinthe propaganda, right? And so many brands are images of death and names of death, and Death in the Afternoon is a wonderful cocktail that Hemingway created based on his book about bullfighting. And I changed it. For New Year's this year, I changed it to Hopes and Dreams, where champagne is the hopes and absinthe is the dreams. And it just is a more positive spin on a lovely cocktail.
Now, this looks very yellow, but it's got a nice pink tinge in my glass. So I know it looks pretty weird on the camera, but it doesn't look like that in person. So I can tell you.
How does it taste?
No, that's a good one. It was the bubbles from the champagne. No, I got the absinthe right away, and because I poured the absinthe in, and then I poured the champagne over it, and it's gone, by the way. And then I got the grapes and the sizzle from the champagne after that. So it was really interesting that I sipped off the top of the glass, and that I don't know if the convection of it kind of threw the absinthe to the top of the glass, but what a wonderful combination of flavors. Wow. And I guess Hemingway said you should drink 4 or 5 of these slowly.
Yeah, and he put a lot of absinthe in there too. I don't think you need that much absinthe. It overpowers the champagne pretty quickly.
I put in the jigger, which is 1.5 ounces, and it was probably 5 ounces of champagne, maybe.
That sounds about right. Yeah. It's a great brunch cocktail. It's really nice instead of a mimosa.
And anytime you're talking about a drink and you bring up the word sizzle in your description of it, I mean, that's a home run of a drink. If you had it. That's bringing some sizzle to the palate.
Well, here's the thing: the carbonation from the champagne kind of pops all over your mouth and just throws all those absinthe flavors all over the place. So it's really pretty cool.
Yeah, I mixed up a quick ABC here. So I've got the absinthe. I went with the Vert. I've got some bourbon and I've got some Cointreau. And oh my goodness, is that a tasty
Good.
mix.
Good.
It's another one that it's just like there's so many flavors. Like you get each of them independently and at different times, and it's a fun drink. All right, Solomon.
Yeah,
you look like you got the giggles.
Oh, I'm excited. I want to play a game.
Do you? Well, let's do it. Let's get into
wine, beer, spirit, or pop culture reference. This is where I am going to give our panel and everybody watching on YouTube right now. Just look for We Like Drinking on YouTube, as you ought to do every Tuesday night around 7:30-ish Pacific, or you can go to welikedrinking.com/show. Y'all leave us some comments along the way as to what you think this term is. Is it a wine, a beer, a spirit, or some sort of pop culture reference? Our distinguished panel has vowed on a stack of sugar cubes that they are not going to look at the comment section during this game. The term this week is monoammonium phosphate. Is monoammonium phosphate a wine term, a beer term, a spirit term, or some sort of pop culture reference? Jeff Eccles.
I knew. Normally when you give us the word, I try to quickly type it into the show notes so I have it for afterwards. I'm not going to do that this time. Because you're giving us this word, though, I am going to make you spell it for us, please.
Certainly. NH4H2PO4. Sorry, that's two words. Monoammonium, MONOAMMONIUM. Second word is phosphate, PHOSPHATE. Yeah, monoammonium phosphate.
Isn't monoammonium hyphenated?
No, I'm putting it as one word. If you want to throw a hyphen in there, I'll let you.
Monoammonium phosphate.
Yes, monoammonium phosphate.
I really feel like I should know what this is, but I have no clue. And I know I'm going to be so embarrassed when you come back and tell us what it really is. Monoammonium phosphate. I'm going to say you're going to have, this is going to be some kind of spirit term or something like that. I hate you that you chose me first this time around. I'm just, you know what? I'm going to say that this is a pop culture reference and that this has something to do with the trail that is expended from a firework as the powder burns as it arcs through the sky.
Wow.
Sure, why not?
Jeff Eccles pulling a majestic visual out of his ass.
That's really what I'm
for that one with the pop culture reference.
Less knowledge and more just the visual content.
I always know it's a good term when JVB is silent in the chat. Absinthia, what do you think of monoammonium phosphate? Do you think this is a wine, beer, spirit, or pop culture reference?
Well, if it's beer, I wouldn't know. I've never made beer. I don't like beer. Sorry, guys. But I've never come across it in the spirit world, which doesn't mean it's not a spirit term. But I'm going to go with wine. It sounds like something in the wine making or cleaning process. That's my guess.
All right. Absinthia says wine, and it has something to do with the process of wine making, or even like cleaning, sanitation.
Sure.
I like the way you're looking at this. John Ruyak, what do you think about monoammonium phosphate?
Well, I'm thinking, okay, phosphate. It's not phosphoric. Monoammonium, that's basic. And yeah, something. My first guess was that it's baking powder. So I think it's a pop culture reference. It's baking powder.
You know, I love this, John, and I know that you have like some chemistry in your background. You're saying it's pop culture reference, and that it's baking powder.
Yes,
right?
I don't know what baking powder has to do with any kind of pop culture reference. Well, I don't know. Did someone in the Euro Cup forget to put it in, and their muffins fell flat? I don't know.
Yeah, the celebratory
it was
muffins
on TikTok, I'm sure.
were horrendous. So here's the thing. In a dry chemical fire extinguisher, some of the fine powders that are used are sodium bicarbonate, which is baking soda, potassium bicarbonate, which is nearly identical to baking soda, and then monoammonium phosphate. So this is a solid that is used to smother a flame from a fire extinguisher. So obviously this is a spirit reference, because Absinthia, I know that you have fire extinguishers on hand anytime anyone comes close to your absinthe with an open flame.
That is right. Do not burn the absinthe.
So there we go. Monoammonium phosphate. It's a spirit reference, and it looks like JVB got it right after he looked it up. Congratulations.
Well done, Jeff Saul. Well done, Jeff
I
Saul.
was close.
I was opposite.
I just love that React said baking powder, and I'm like, oh shit! Now I gotta get my phone out and just double check because I specifically avoided the baking soda one.
Awesome. Okay, Absinthia Vermut, founder of Absinthia Absinthe. One of the things, I know you probably answered a lot, but we love origin stories on this show, and yours is so much fun. So can you please tell us how Absinthia Absinthe came to be?
Sure. So way back in 1996, I was at a San Francisco Cacophony Society party. I was at a Proust wake, and there was an actual cake of Proust body and poetry readings and a crystal jar of this green liquid. And that was my first experience with absinthe. And I was curious and kind of afraid of it and didn't really know what it was, and ended up having a glass and madly falling in love with this weird green strong liquid, getting the recipe and starting to do all this research on it in the era before the internet. My background is in photography and art history, and so the absinthe was really appealing to me because of the art historical all the artists and the cafe society and the happy hour, the air vert, the green hour, where all the artists would get together in the Parisian cafes and drink absinthe. And so I got the recipe, which was Everclear and food coloring and some wormwood and anise tinctures from the Mission in San Francisco. And I made it. And the first time I served it at a party, my friends started calling me Absinthia. And actually, I next brought it to a Burning Man fundraiser. And I used to say back in the day when Burning Man needed fundraisers, but we're there again because of the pandemic. Yeah. And it got written up in SF Weekly that I made an absinthe that tasted like Joy dishwashing liquid.
Oh, ouch.
And it was inspiring to me. Everyone started calling me Absinthia, and I really wanted to work on the recipe. Nobody knew. I mean, absinthe had been illegal for 90 some odd years at that point. Nobody knew how to make it or what it tasted like, and there's no internet to reference recipes and how to make it and all that. And I wanted to make it organic, and I spent years perfecting it and working on it. And then all of a sudden, one day in 2007, it was legal. And it took me about 10 years to get the business off the ground. As an artist, I went back to school. I got my MBA. I launched a syrups business in the meanwhile, learned about the industry, learned all about absinthe, figured out how to run an alcohol business in this country, which is almost impossible. Spent nearly 2 years just getting the Blanche labels approved with the federal government. And finally, in September of 2017, launched the Blanche legally.
Amazing. What a wild ride from.
It was a wild ride. I mean, that's 20 years.
So how many batches did you make before you think it was what you wanted? How long did that take?
Boy, that's a great question. I would say probably, I don't know how many batches, but I would say within 5 years, I was making it organically and it tasted really good. It was a whole thing though, going from, me making it myself and bootlegging to working with a professional distiller and coming up with that recipe and finding herbs. In the very beginning, I really wanted an organic logo on the bottle. I've since given that up because it took too much time and too much money, and the organizations were so slow. So I'm still using organic ingredients. I'm just not certified anymore. But at the time, it meant I couldn't get it from my friend's garden up north, who was, better than organic, but didn't want to pay for it. I had to find the right farmers to work with, and so it was a big process.
Is it what you envision now? Is there still something that you're like? Oh.
You mean as far as like the flavor profile goes?
Yeah.
The blanches, like I said earlier, I'm still working on the verts. The vert needs to really get there. I think there's just something magic happening in that blanche, and I want the same for the verts. I also have about 300 bottles worth sitting in a cask right now. We're going to do a barrel age this fall.
Wow.
So that's exciting.
Can we at least ask what kind of barrel it's in?
Yes, you can. It is, hang on, I took a picture of it and I'll show you the actual barrel. It is in a American oak, heavy charred, but it had been sitting in, where's my camera? There we go. It's sitting in neutral spirits. So it's just going to be a light barrel flavor, a light char. We don't want to, make it too heavy, but I'm excited about it.
That is so cool. And now I'm thinking about like you're talking about the 20-year, journey, to get where you're at right now. And I'm just thinking about this barrel program taking off, and all of a sudden it's like you've got a warehouse in Kentucky that you're managing too, and like that's so rad. So let me ask. So as you're working on your barrel aged absinthes, are there other barrel aged absinthes on the market or that you've tried before that kind of inspired you with that? Like what kind of things will we look for from that?
There's a couple of them out there, and it just adds this sort of like really nice smokiness to the absinthe. And the reason I'm launching it in the fall is because it just feels like a really good fall flavor.
Yeah.
And I would love to share it with some bartenders and get some cocktail recipes out of it.
And are those bourbon barrels or are those fresh new barrels? And if you already said that, I'm sorry.
They were used as bourbon, but they've been cleaned out, so it's not gonna overpower the absinthe at all.
Yeah.
Okay.
What I got from the Vert was a little bit of, when I said sweetness, it came into my nose as a little bit of vanilla to me on the nose. So maybe that bourbon barrel is going to kick up that vanilla note a little bit. I'd really be interested to hear how that turns out.
Yeah, I'm excited. We just put it in last week. We're going to give it a good, maybe we'll test it around 6 weeks, maybe leave it in around 8 at the most.
Yeah, because
I'm excited to try it too.
Yeah, you're putting it, and so let's ask you. You bottle this at 55 proof. Are you aging it or distilling it at something different? I've read that some places kind of dilute just a tiny bit in order to bottle at a particular proof.
Yeah, we dilute it down. It's much higher when it comes out of the still, and we dilute it down. And the reason why I chose 55%, you'll see absinthe anywhere from 45 to 72, maybe even a little bit higher. That was just the sweet spot where it loosed right and it tasted right and it wasn't too hot. So it just worked right there.
I really have to agree with you.
You had no desire to make a 66.6% absinthe and have a big skull on it? No. Okay.
Oh, so many people have made absinthe with skulls. I don't need to do that. I want an organic and a live, positive absinthe. I don't want to go into the whole anti-absinthe propaganda. It's amazing to me that there are kids in their 20s who believe the anti-absinthe propaganda from the early 1900s. It's amazing.
And let me ask, because obviously it's one of those things where it's like, God, you don't even want to like mention some of those things that people say, because you don't want it, like, especially for like the casual listener, like the folks in the chat here that have their own little game going on, they might think something else. But Absinthia, like, are there certain like particular things where it's like you get people asking you these questions about absinthe all the time that you
All
have
the
to
time.
correct them all the time? Or
Yeah.
is there like a top 3 that you just want to squash right now for our tens of listeners?
I would love to. So I talked about one earlier. There's no licorice. It will not make you go blind.
Oh, wow.
What?
Yeah.
Wow.
Okay. All
I
right.
get asked that. And it's not, it won't make you hallucinate. It actually never made you hallucinate. It was, so when you have either late stage alcoholism or you have maybe, very strong undistilled wormwood, it's more of a convulsant, but it was never a hallucinogen. If you want to hallucinate, there's other things. Absinthe is not that.
Do you know, have you done, like, where did that come from? Like, because it doesn't make sense that this drink is going to make you hallucinate, but it is very widespread in that misnomer. So do you have any idea where that came from?
Yeah, I know exactly where that came from, and I tell the story a lot. In the mid 1800s, right as absinthe was becoming very, very popular, the French grapes developed phylloxera, which is a louse, and they had to destroy all the grapevines. And so there was no French wine, but there was a lot of absinthe.
Oh.
And eventually, of course, the wine came back, but they had absinthe. Like it was cheaper. It got you drunk faster. It had a whole ritual around it. It was absinthe. And so nobody wanted to drink the wine. And so the wine industry, obviously very important, not only to the French economy, but also to the church, right? Needed to get people drinking wine again. They needed to pay their bills. And so they started this whole anti-absinthe propaganda. And then in 1904, a Swiss man had probably drunk, I don't know, 5 or 6 or 7 bottles of wine and a glass or 2 of absinthe and killed his wife and kids. And blamed absinthe.
Yeah, Mr. Lanfray. I read that
right.
story. And I also saw that at that time in France, they were drinking 36 million liters of absinthe per year, but only 5 million liters of wine. So they were drinking 7 times as much absinthe as wine in that phylloxera era. So
right. And so what I try to tell people is absinthe used to be more popular than wine. Like, think about that. Think about the gimmicky, bitter, bright green absinthe that you may have been drinking and how terrible it tastes. And then think about how absolutely wildly popular absinthe was, that it crushed, no pun intended, it crushed the wine industry.
That is
and
so
then
cool.
let's talk about what absinthe really should taste like.
It tastes like what you make.
Amazing.
It does taste amazing. And I'm still, I mean, just like a fine beer, a fine bourbon, a fine glass of wine, I'm still, you guys saw me tip back the last of my glass, and that was 5 minutes ago. And I'm still getting, obviously not from the sip, but just the aromatics in my mouth just continue in a very pleasant way, not in the way that sometimes a real heavy IPA will just kind of leave you wanting to brush your teeth. But this is just, well, as you said, I mean, it's kind of a cleansing thing. The fennel is very aromatic, and yet it's not like chewing 3 pieces of peppermint gum. It's just nice. It's just like a breath of fresh air in your mouth. It's just really neat.
Yeah. So there's one more that Cork Envy said the comments. I'm just going to talk about that. So I have actually been to the Van Gogh Museum in Amsterdam, and they do not mention absinthe in there. He was an absinthe fan. He drank absinthe. He painted absinthe. It certainly influenced his art. It had nothing to do with him cutting off his ear.
So Stubb joined in the chat and he asked, didn't Van Gogh enjoy the absinthe? Will absinthe make me cut off an ear?
If you keep
the
soaking
only
in that
thing that would make me cut off my ear is listening to the one bourbon, one chard, or one beer. I'm joking, Stubb. I love you.
Yeah, if you keep soaking in that kiddie pool, his ear's just going to fall off all by itself.
So Absinthia, along with the absinthe, you also sent us some syrups here. We didn't. I opened them all up and I took some smells of it. They've got some really fun aromas in here. But we have, and I love the labels and the names on them. We have Caged Heat, which sounds like an 80s.
Caged Heat was Jonathan Demme's first movie, the Silence of the Lamb director.
Yes,
It is a women's lesbian prison film,
yes,
and
it is.
It is so terrible that it's not even good.
I agree with everything you've said in the last 2 minutes.
But it's got a great title.
Yes,
and
it
so
does.
that is our spicy tamarind, cardamom, and ghost pepper syrup, and it makes.
Ooh.
I love it as what we call the desert heat, which makes a spicy margarita. The label on the bottle, every bottle has a recipe on it, is for a spicy bourbon sour, and we created it because when you are using peppers, every pepper is a little bit different. When peppers grow, if they're in the sunlight, they tend to be spicier than peppers that have grown in the shade. And so you may make, a handful of spicy margaritas, and cut up a bunch of different peppers, and each drink's going to be different. So this is a way to make a consistently spicy drink. And the tamarind and cardamom with it are so good. It's a great pairing.
Detness Roy, did you hear that? Ghost peppers are in this one. So then we've got the cherry bomb.
Yeah, the cherry bomb is nice.
Did you like that, Solomon?
Jeff Eccles, the long lost member of the Runaways,
yes.
the one that didn't have a solo career afterwards.
Yes, the one that was thrown out at tryouts
because you weren't a girl.
So now this is a really interesting one as well. This is cherry cacao and coffee.
That's right. No caffeine either.
Oh,
yeah.
And so, and this one is the syrup, rum, and a little bit of lime is the suggested drink with this one.
Yep. Makes a daiquiri, makes an old fashioned. I actually had an egg cream made with that, and used that instead of the chocolate sauce. That was really good.
Ooh, heck yeah. And then we've got the crimson smoke.
Great with mezcal or scotch.
Ooh.
Yeah, actually, my wife and I both gravitated towards that mezcal in this. Let's do it tomorrow.
Smoked tea, cranberry, and honey.
So with the smoked tea is a Lapsang Souchong, which is a cedar smoked black tea.
I can see Jeff Solomon salivating already.
I'm just thinking about, oh, wow.
I've actually used that on vanilla ice cream.
Yes.
Really good.
And then we've got the fairy dust, and this one's a lot of fun. I'm going to taste a little bit of this one based on what you told us about this one. So what is the fairy dust all about?
So the fairy dust came from years of serving absinthe at parties and all over the place. And people, every once in a while, I love the flavor of absinthe, but I don't drink, or I'm pregnant, or, whatever. And, what can I have? And I was like, well, how about a Coca-Cola? Because there were nothing, absinthe is, like I said, distilled spirit, wormwood, blah, blah, blah. So we created fairy dust, which is an absinthe inspired simple syrup, and it has wormwood, fennel, and anise in it. And it's wonderful with tequila. It's wonderful with gin. It kind of, it replicates sort of the Corpse Reviver #2. It's also amazing with just a little soda water and a slice of lemon. It's a great way if, you're still working and you really want an absinthe and you can't have a drink yet, go for the fairy dust.
Yeah. And I just in a little glass, I just poured a little bit of that syrup and a little bit of water, and I kind of mixed it up. And yeah, it's similar, very similar to absinthe. There's no alcohol in it or anything like that, but it's very similar. That's impressive. Well done.
Thank you. So that one and the Absinthe Blanche have both won gold in the San Francisco World Spirits Competition.
Nice.
Yeah.
Excellent.
So that's fun.
What a lot of fun this has been. Guys, any other questions you may have for Absinthia? Jeff?
I'm waiting. I'm waiting for Jeff.
Okay.
Because
I mentioned
okay, hold on. Absinthia.
No, it's not. Do you know Bill
just
Bisma?
come on.
Now I have to come up with something more grandiose. I was just going to say, I mentioned the Blanche. I think would go really great with some tacos.
Hmm.
And Cynthia, if you were going to pair the Vert with any sort of like dish to go with it, like, is there something that you'd like to have with it? Or do you do your absinthe as like a standalone cocktail always?
It really depends. So I will say that in 2009, Wine Spectator wrote an article saying that Americans will come to the absinthe through the cocktail, not the absinthe louche, which is why I have over 100 cocktail recipes on my website. So cocktails, of course, go with pretty much anything. But I don't know. I think absinthe goes well with stinky cheese and crackers. It goes well with oysters. It goes well with fish. It's a great digestif. After your dinner, have a little glass of it. Cocktails, anything goes really.
Melon ball, prosciutto, and mozzarella skewers.
I'm in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking of the aromatic of the prosciutto, and melon is really aromatic too, but in a mellower way that the absinthe would kind of accentuate that. Can you see the melon exploding in your mouth after
It's so gonna make my mouth sizzle. I can already tell.
I just love Eccles is honing in on the sizzle, which I think is so important. Anyone who knows anything about evolutionary psychology knows that there's a reason why we love the sizzle.
The sizzle.
Everybody loves the sizzle. I do have another question, Absinthia. If I'm at home watching, listening to this, how do I get my hands on this fine Absinthia Absinthe?
Yeah, the easiest way is just to go to absinthia.com. Click on the shop button. I actually have 2 shop buttons now. I have some merchandise. I have hoodies and dasher bottles and candles I make from old bottles that I've saved, old absinthe bottles. But yeah, you go to Absinthia, click on shop, go to shopabsinthia.com, and we're able to ship to about 47 states right now. So if it says that we can't ship to you, well, we can talk to our federal government about that. Or actually, that's by state rather. That's by state.
Are they allowed to? Those other 3 states, can they at least buy the merch?
They can. Oh, anybody can buy the merch. Yes,
And they can buy the syrups as well, right?
anyone can buy the syrups because those are non-alcoholic, and those are at nickeldimesyrups.com.
I'm
It's a
just going to
separate
go out on a
website.
limb and say Mississippi, Alabama, and Oklahoma.
Massachusetts.
Yep.
Utah,
Illinois.
Pennsylvania.
I think it's Massachusetts, Illinois, and one of the Arkansas, Alabama, one of the A states in the South. I don't know. Sorry.
Sorry, guys. You guys know your states suck for alcohol anyway.
So, folks, if you haven't figured it out yet, if we did do an absinthe episode in the past that some of us may or may not remember, don't ever go listen to that one.
This is the definitive absinthe episode.
This is the absinthe episode. It is the Absinthia episode. I'm holding the label up here. Beautiful
And yes,
label.
we ship to Alaska. Rhett just asked that. We can ship to Alaska and Hawaii.
There you go. There you go. Mike S. up in Alaska. I know you're listening. Go order some, brother. Okay, Absinthia, is there anything we may have missed or not touched on that we should have talked about?
No, you guys asked some great questions. Thank you so much.
Hey, once out of 338 tries. Good job, guys. We finally asked some good questions. But let's see. Is there anything else we want to talk about? I think we've touched on the big things. And unfortunately, when at this point, 5 glasses that I've had throughout the show of absinthe are empty, it must be
Last call.
Last call. Time to clean house and lock the doors. You know what we do here, folks. We're looking for a little bit of help from you. John Ruyak, if the folks want to follow us on the social media platforms, how can they do so?
Well, there's Twitter. We like drinking 1. the numeral 1, We Like Drinking at Instagram. And if you really want to be cool, join us on the tavern. And that would be welikedrinking.com/tavern, folks.
We had a new member join today.
Oh, nice.
This lady named Absinthia is a part of the tavern now. So look out, folks.
Oh,
It's going very heavy these days. So watch out.
I always wonder if there's like one person that's like, I really want to join the tavern, but I also don't want to be cool. So there's this real,
Absinthia, one more time, if the folks want to follow you on the social media platforms or follow you on the interwebs, where are the best places for them to do so?
Yeah, the best places are Instagram at Absinthia_absinthe, Facebook.com/the Absinthia, because there's a drag queen in Berlin, I believe, who has Facebook.com/Absinthia.
That's fantastic.
I have Twitter at Absinthia, but I don't really use it very often.
Yeah,
So I'd say Instagram's the best. And then Absinthia.com is the website.
And I mean, go follow both.
Follow the other.
Really. I mean,
tiers,
really, you should follow both on Instagram.
Wonderful.
Jeff Solomon, if the folks have some thoughts on our show, where can they go to leave a review?
Yeah, well, those of you watching live, as you ought to do every Tuesday night around 7:30-ish Pacific at welikedrinking.com/show, or on YouTube, make sure that you're leaving a comment, liking, subscribing, hitting the belling situation. But those of you every single gosh darn week downloading and listening on your favorite podcast catching app, which is probably, well, I don't know if it's your favorite, but you're using it. You're using the Apple Podcast. Go ahead and take a look at your phone, fill up those 5 stars, and let us know which of our absinthe shows was your favorite.
And don't forget to visit welikedrinking.com/pledge to find out more information about becoming a patron of the show. We've been talking about it for a while. We're so close. We're like $4 away from hitting that $200 milestone that we've been trying to get to for like 3 years. I
really want to be $4 richer. Please.
All our problems will be solved if we just
$4,
get
none the richer.
I want my $2.
I want my $2. Yes.
Please
go that way really fast.
Please, listeners, can we have some more?
If something gets in your way, turn.
Can we just talk about how the bullshit premise of Oliver to begin with, like a fucking kid says, "Yeah, can I have a little bit more?" and everyone freaks out, and then he becomes a homeless gang member. Like,
what does he think he is? Leonardo DiCaprio in Gangs of New York? I mean, come on.
You can also find the show notes for this episode with all the links to the stories or mentions we had at welikedrinking.com/episodes. All right, folks, as you've noticed, we've had a lot of fun on this episode, but it's the time of the show where I get to say, okay, panel, let's take one last trip around this table and get some final thoughts before we shut off the lights. John Ruyak.
I could wax poetic about dermatology appointments or things like that, but you know what? I'm going to just harken back to my days in sales and just at first say thank you very much, Absinthia, for these kick-ass products. They're just kick-ass. So they always said, make sure you say things 3 times to make it stick. Folks, get some absinthe and put some sizzle in your cocktail game.
Nicely done, John. I gotta say, when you started off with the dermatology lane, I was like, oh God, here we go. But you pulled it back pretty well. Good job. Jeff Solomon.
I got something to say about a listener in particular. His name is Brad from Swankville. He likes to come over. He likes to drink all my liquor. He's the reason why. Well, shit, actually, Brad, you've been doing a bad job. I've had this bottle for 15 years and you still haven't finished it yet. But I'll tell you what, next time you come over, Brad, you can take this home with you because I've got these now.
Jeff Solomon wins. Absinthia, any final thoughts before we let you get out of here?
I guess I just want to say, don't drink crapsinthe. Drink real absinthe. Drink true absinthe.
Oh,
And there is the name of this episode.
Don't drink crapsinthe.
Don't drink crapsinthe. Drink the absinthe. I love it. I love it. Absinthia, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to join us. I'm sorry we didn't get to talk about the TTB. I know that would have been a highlight of your day to talk about the TTB. Thank you for sending these wonderful absinthe products. You have very much changed my whole perception of what absinthe is. So I thank you for that.
Good.
Thank you for the syrups. This is all fantastic, and it has been a real treat to get to know you. And thank you for going through 20 years of your life to develop this product. That's amazing.
Absolutely. Thanks, guys.
Yes. And with that, I'll say thanks again for joining us at the We Like Drinking podcast.
Where you'll never drink alone. We forgot
almost
to tell
pushed
her
the
about
glass
that.
out of Cynthia's hand. That would have been very messed up.
And as we said, most people forget completely about it, and they're like, "Oh shit, that's right, yeah, let's do it." So,
Note to self: get trademark for crapsinthe. Stand on side of road.
Viewers, that was a lot of fun. Heads up that next week there will not be a live recording of the show. There will still be an episode, but you're gonna have to subscribe to your favorite podcast catcher to be able to catch it, because we will not be recording next week's episode on the tubes. So we'll be back in a couple weeks. Normally I always forget to know who it is on time. So, it's going to be a drinking episode. I don't know. I don't know what we're doing.
It's a wine episode.
Yeah, but we trashed that. So anyway, so viewers, come back in 2 weeks. We don't know what the fuck we'll be drinking.
We'll be buying random bottles of absinthe and then putting them on the air and see if they're lime green or not.
Asking if they're hazy or not. So viewers, we will see you in a couple weeks. Thank you all so much. We had quite a few of you join this episode. It was a lot of fun. So thank you all, and we'll see you next time.
Bye, viewers. Take care.